Group B in the Dominic Smith Expert Electrical Senior Football Championship is a little bit more clear-cut than Group A. We know already which 4 teams have qualified for the quarter-finals. The main question in this group obviously is the finishing order, but also who's going to end up in that relegation spot at the bottom of the group. And the clash between the Sarsfields and Bunclody this weekend will tell us who's going to end up there, Noel. But first of all, if we look at what's happened in the group so far, what would you make of it?
I would sure the Shells have been the strongest team in the group, definitely. Without really shooting the lights out either, I'd say. Like, they haven't been at their probably brilliant best either. Like, but they've gone about their business. They've introduced Owen O'Gara into their setup, and he's obviously improving probably and getting fitter with every game that he plays too. I think he was carrying an injury there. When I seen him playing St James that day, I mean, the first ball he got, he just turned it over the bar with it. Like, so he's going to be a huge addition when it comes down the stretch in the championship. But they've been there, so they're very well organised. They know what they're about, and I suppose they got tested at the weekend now by Castletown. Castletown maybe put it up to them, like, and I think Castletown are probably a team that could improve the more it goes on. Like, St James is in the group have been very good the first night against Glynn-Barntown, which was a very good game to open the championship actually this year, and they were decent enough too against Shelmeliers when they were missing Matthew Hanlon in the second round. And then I didn't see their game against the Sarsfields that they got from all I believe they came through a tough dogged battle that evening. And yesterday they beat Bunclody. It was a good open game of football. Like, they're probably worried about the 3 goals they conceded, but I would say in that game that Bunclody fought right the whole way through, like, sort of knowing like that they were already, regardless what happened yesterday, into a relegation semi-final this weekend, really out of the championship. And like, Glynn-Barntown are another team. Like, you look at their backroom team, like, alone what they have on the sideline involved with their backroom team, like, so they're obviously putting a huge effort into it. Like, so they're a team like that are going to beat a good team, in the championship somewhere along the way, and they have a crack. Like, it's almost a free shot that they have at the weekend now against the Shelmeliers. There's no real consequence for losing the game, bar you go down it behind the table, that's it.
And just on Glynn-Barntown, Conor, we commentated on Glynn-Barntown and Bunclody a couple of weeks ago, and they were unbelievably impressive in the first half, and then sort of let Bunclody back into the game in the second.
Yeah, they were so good coming from deep with the half back line that night. They had Rian Crosby, John Lacey and James Stafford, I think was the half back line, and they, like, anytime they got on the ball, Bunclody were under serious pressure. Now, when it kind of went away from was when they lost their shape a bit after the black card, just right before half time. Can't remember who got the black card now, but Barntown just seemed to drift back an awful lot. Completely lost their shape. Like, they always had Mick O'Regan or who was the other?
Rob Tierney, maybe, was it?
No, in full forward line.
One of the Coonies.
Yeah, I think it was Fionn Cooney actually. It was inside. One of the Coonies anyway. But they always had someone inside as a target, and they completely lost that shape for probably 20 minutes spell of the second half. They went from being 9 points up or 10 points up, just before half time, to I think there was 3 or 4 points in it at one stage when Alan Matney came on, and they actually got, whether he got a bit of instruction or off from the line, but they went back to having someone up top, and it stretched Bunclody again, and they were able to get their running game and their kicking game going, and they looked seriously impressive when they were able to do that. And the same the week before against St James's in the first half, they were very impressive when they kept their shape. Like, but they probably have that ability to blow hot and cold, don't they? They look brilliant for 30 minutes and then struggled for 15, 20 and let a team completely take over. But that's no doubt about it. They definitely do have the quality in the team though to trouble the Shells.
Another team in this group, Noel, that has the ability to blow hot and cold is Castletown. When they turn it on, they can be as free flowing. We saw in the county final a couple of years ago a brilliant game against Gustron. They just went for it. And on the other hand, when they get bogged down in a game, they really, really get bogged down.
Yeah, like, there's a serious amount of talent in the Castletown team. A lot of very good young lads that are coming through. Like, right from the goalkeeper out the whole way through the field, I suppose. And I suppose Ben is the scorer in chief inside. Like, but I think they were without Ben at the weekend in the game. I think were they or
no, Ben had his suspension overturned. Actually, he played against.
Okay, so like he's their the sort of scorer. Like what they have the Holmes is like Conor, Carty, all these lads who are all seasoned good footballers and they know how to win games. And they're in the quarterfinals now, and they're a team that's going to be, targeting semi-final or targeting county final. Let's say like that's their football is their huge. This is their big thing. Like, and they want to be there. They have, as I said, they have the players. They have the experience of it over the last couple of years. So like their game against St James at the weekend will be interesting. Two teams potentially that have a chance of winning the championship. I'd say on their day, both of them, but on their off day, the two of them could be betting the quarter final. Sort of teams that they are like. They're maybe similar to Glynn-Barntown. Like Glynn-Barntown, maybe you might say St James and Castletown on paper probably might be a bit stronger than Glynn-Barntown, but I think I seen Glynn-Barntown yesterday now again for the second time, and as Conor said, they're hot and cold in the game. Like they'd get as far as the Sarsfields half forward line and turn the ball over, lose possession, and then they'd win it back, and then the couple of subs that they have the ability to bring on subs from the sideline to do things for them. But yeah, like
you mentioned the other day on commentary, just getting back to St James briefly, you think they haven't won a knockout championship game since they won the county title in 2015?
Yeah, that's a harsh reality. I think that's the way it's been. They've come up against Glynn-Barntown, Starlights, a lot of hard games last year against Kyle Nairn. They would have probably been, I wouldn't say expected, like you wouldn't be putting your house on them to beat Kyle Nairn, because Kyle Nairn are coming with a good crew of young players too. Like, but you'd probably be saying that St James would be favourites to win that game and didn't win it. Like, so I suppose this game of the weekend it's a free shot for both teams again against each other. There's a possibility that James could end up fourth in the group, a possibility that Glynn-Barntown or Castletown could end up fourth in the group as well. Like, so I suppose that's in their minds too. And obviously you don't want to be, I think Wexford did it a couple of years ago in the last game of the league. They had already been promoted in our Division 4 and rested a whole heap of players for their last game. Got absolutely walloped by Westmeath, I think, wasn't it? And then went out in the league final then a week later and got walloped by them again. Like, so you don't want to lose your momentum. And I think St James are well capable of producing it. I think there's good crew, and with Graham on the sideline sort of calling the shots, and then maybe coming into the game himself. Like, he has huge experience, and I think the lads when he's playing beside him or when he's on the sideline, they've huge respect for him. And then you have Mick Welch beside him too.
And we mentioned at the start of this chat about the Shelmeliers, but I think it's no harm to go back to them, Conor, a little bit. They're obviously the very strong favourites for the title, but if we look at what they've scored so far, they scored 5-8 against the Sarsfields. 2 of the goals came in the very last minute of the game. They scored 2-8 against St James. They did score 21 points against Bunclody, but yesterday they scored 1-8 against Castletown. I was at that game. I actually only saw the first half because I was going to play football myself, but after 14 minutes they scored 1-7, and they didn't score again until injury time in the second half. So 47 or 8 minutes they went without scoring yesterday. And although they're the big favourites, are there chinks in the Shelmaliers' armour? I suppose I've nearly answered the question already, but what do you think?
Yeah, like they'll definitely be happy where they are. They're unbeaten, they're top of the group, and they've brought in, obviously everyone knows Ono Dara has joined them, but they've brought in and gave game time to another couple of young lads as well in a lot of the games so far. So I actually don't think Shelmaliers have had their strongest team out yet, and maybe they're not 100% sure what their strongest team is themselves yet either, but there's no doubt about it that you look at both Shells and Castletown yesterday, like so far in the championship, both of them probably haven't been scoring enough to win a championship. Like I said, Shells yesterday 9 scores and 8 of them were after 17 minutes. The round 3 obviously, both Shells and Castletown have had one game each where they're probably happy with their scoring. Shells got 21 points in round 3 and Castletown got 214 in round 2.
But other than that, it's been fairly low.
Happy, like, are Castletown going to be happy with 10 scores, 1-9, then the next day then they got 1-4 and then 1-6 the weekend. Like, you probably make an argument say yes, they will be happy because they're qualified, but is that going to be enough to win a championship? And then it's the very same for the Shells. Like,
when you forwards know, like Robbie Brooks, Ben Brosnan, James Holmes, Donica Holmes, Jack Higgins, it's really unbelievable that Castletown have scored 1-6, 1-4 and 1-9 in 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, maybe they're holding something back. Maybe they're thinking themselves, we get to the quarter final and then we'll unleash the scoring power. Then, like, maybe there's, you know, they have a new man in there, a new sort of backroom team in there. Like, I think Paul Garrigan's with them, who has been with the Meath ladies. Like, and I would say maybe that getting defensively set up could be the first priority there. Something maybe with that. Like, so you don't know. You'd like to know what. It'll be interesting to see when they get to the quarter final stage what they'll bring different to the table, because I think they will have a few tricks up their sleeve. Like, just going back to the Shelmaliers, the day they played St James, is like they looked brilliant for probably 3/4 of the game, but for 15 minutes there it was all St James. They were coming at them in droves, like, and St James's were, you know, they were dead. I thought they were dead and buried in that game, to be honest, but kept going, and all of a sudden there was a lot of chinks in the Shelmaliers too. Like, you're wondering, like, well, maybe they're not unbeatable. Like, so obviously they are unbeaten so far in the championship, but I think there's, if you're the other teams, there's 7 teams that make it to the quarterfinals, you wouldn't, you know, be going in there absolutely afraid of your lives playing the Shelmaliers. And like, it's what, 2006 since Horsewood went back to back, is that?
Yeah.
And that's
somewhere around then anyway, I think.
That's the last team to do a back-to-back in the Wexford Football Championship, so the quarter-final could easily be a place where the Shells could be caught. But Shells as well, what they have on their armour, like, on the sideline too, like Anya Kinsella, who's the stats with the senior hurlers, like, she is able to pick an opposition apart. So whoever they face, like, the Shells will have their homework done and they'll have their players marking the players they want to have. Like, but maybe they are depending too much on certain players for scores as well, and you know, the forwards will probably have to kick into gear for them too. But Castletown, yeah, you said there, like, the scoring is not great, but I just think there's something maybe brewing in Castletown yet this year.
Well, before we get predictions, we may talk about the Sarsfields, because we haven't really talked about them at all. I've seen them twice. You saw them yesterday, Noel, and I'd sum them up as a bit of an enigma. I think on any given day, if they get it all together, I think they're capable of beating any team, but they just can't seem to get over the line.
Yeah, well, like, they definitely created 4 or 5 goal chances yesterday. Now, 2 of them in the first half were, like, I think the passes went astray. Owen Roach, obviously they had Lee Chin on the edge of the square, which creates havoc, like, for the opposition team. You know, like, you can be, as long as you get the ball in there to Lee Chin, like, there's a good chance that he's going to win it and create a scoring chance from it. And then Matt Doyle made a brilliant save in the second half to deny them a goal. They created enough goal chances to win a game, but they didn't score them. And the team that they're going to play at the weekend, Bunclody, created probably 5 goal chances yesterday against St James's and scored 3 of them. So it's the Sarsfields, like, they are a team that every year you're expecting them, if they could get a win in the first game, to get them on the road. I think they're a team that could, you know, they could potentially make a quarter final in a couple of years' time, but they always seem to end up back in the relegation. Yeah, and like, they're a good team. They're a young team as well, to be fair to them now. You know, there's a good lot of young players on the team, so, you know, they just yesterday didn't take the chances, and that's why they didn't win the game yesterday. It's plain and simple as that. Like, I mean, what did they score yesterday? 2-4. Like, 2-4 won't win a whole lot of games. So.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier in this as well that the Shelmeliers got 2 goals in a minute in injury time against the Sarsfields, Conor, and early in the second half the Shelmeliers got 2 goals in a minute. And my opinion on the game was, if you took those 2 minutes of the game out of it, the Sarsfields were the better team for the other 58 minutes. What are your thoughts on them?
Sarsfields are a hard team to analyse, really, when it's like, you kind of look at how do the Sarsfields handle having Lee Chin in the team, and how do the team they're playing against handle facing Lee Chin.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see the Sarsfields playing, and when Lee Chin is in full forward, and they forget all about their running game. Like, they have Dylan Furlong there in the half back line, who is as good a footballer and as good a man to carry the ball as anyone in the county. And sometimes they go away from that game when Chin is in full forward. But it's how they marry both kind of games, like kicking it into him. There's no point in having him in there unless you're going to kick the ball into him. But at the same time, you can't be predictable and do it every time. So the way I would look at that, especially the Sarsfields, is how the Sarsfields probably handle having Chinner in full forward. If they can combine like the long and the short game, I think they'll probably have too much for Bunclody. And then the other side of it then is probably, it depends on, do Bunclody have Marty O'Connor as well? That's another big.
So while it's there with you then, sure, give us your 3 predictions in this group for the weekend.
Right. I'll go Shells, Castletown, and I think the Sarsfields, but I don't know, it depends on Marty as well.
Yeah. No?
I'll go with Sarsfields.
Okay.
Like I said, the Shells in the Glynn-Barntown game and the St James and Castletown games are a free shot for both sides. So it depends on how they approach the game and what, if there's lads carrying knocks, they'll be probably rested in those games. I think the Shelmeliers will beat Glynn-Barntown. I think I'm not going to go against St James's, my own team. So I think the St James's they're playing well enough to win that game. And the Sarsfields, when I just look at the scores, so they got 1-12 the first day, 2-10 the next day, 1-6 and 2-4. So they need to stop the alarming slump in their scoring. That their scoring has gone downhill since the start of the championship. So judging on what Bunclody did yesterday, I seen the 2 games, both them teams playing yesterday, and on yesterday's performance, I'd say that Bunclody will win that game, just because of their ability to take the scores when they got them, the 3 goal chances that they got. They scored 3 cracking goals yesterday. So I think the Bunclody will win that, and the Sarsfields, don't back against them ever in the relegation final.
Well, I'm going to go for the Shelmaliers, St James and the Sarsfields to be the results this week in Group B of the Dominic Smith Expert Electrical Senior Football Championship.